Kody Moodley, and I'm going to talk about assessing the quality of manually curated drug indications via ontology term mappings. And this is work together with Linda Reeswijk, Tudor Opre, and Michel Desmontiers. So the problem we're addressing is that there's not enough precision and accuracy in many existing drug resources when it comes to describing the therapeutic uses of a drug. So this affects, obviously, applications in drug repositioning and other applications in precision medicine. So, for example, here we have a drug denosumab, which is claimed to treat prostate cancer by a particular resource. But actually, if you study the approved drug label for the drug, then you find that it actually is indicated to increase bone mass in patients with prostate cancer. Similarly, for Orlistat, it's actually indicated for obesity management in diabetic patients rather than treating diabetes directly. And similarly, for morphine, we know it's indicated for the treatment of pain for various diseases and not the disease itself. So what is our approach? Well, we have begun a manual curation of drug indications and also medical context of the usage of the drug from structured product labels on DailyMed. DailyMed is an online resource for drug product labels. And the idea with this curation is to eventually use our data to enrich the quality of existing drug resources. So we enlisted the help of about 15 biomedical researchers from Stanford University. Maybe I should stand here. From Stanford University as well as Maastricht University to do the curation. And we created an annotation protocol for actually highlighting and tagging the product labels with interesting information. Mainly, we tag the indications for the drug with the corresponding ontology, bio-ontology terms. Specifically, we focus on the UMLS ontology and the human disease ontology. And we also highlight and tag contextual information about the usage of the drug. For example, comorbidities for the indication, co-therapies for the drug, and other aspects as you see listed there. So we use a tool called Hypothesis to do the annotation. Hypothesis is a web annotation tool available as a plugin for web browsers. And you can use it to tag any web page with interesting information that's relevant for you. And the nice thing about Hypothesis as well is that it has a public API, so we can actually extract these annotations for further analysis and processing. So where are we now so far is that we've annotated about 15% of the antineoplastic and cardiovascular drugs. We started with these because of their heightened societal interest in heart disease and cancer. And what we wanted to do was evaluate the quality of our curated data, and we wanted to compare that to a current gold standard drug resource in Drug Central. And we've done an initial analysis on the overlap, so the exact matches that we find between Drug Central and our curation for the indications. So here's a diagram with some basic numbers. If you want more details, you can come to me in the poster session, and I'll be glad to explain further. So obviously tagging the indications with the ontology terms helps us do this comparison very easily. And it's important to note that just because an indication is doesn't appear in the overlap, doesn't mean that it's not very similar to some indication which appears in the overlap. So we actually plan to do a semantic similarity analysis of the non-overlapping indications to see which one of these can be actually very similar to the ones in the overlap, so that we can get a clearer picture as to what are really the unique indications to each repository. And yeah, so there's some related work that we're aware of for curating drug indications. And these are the most relevant, I think, for our approach. So labeled in is an effort to curate a new gold standard drug resource, specifying drug-disease relationships. And it's similar to our approach in the sense that they also use DailyMed as their data source. And as well, they use human annotators as well to curate their data. But there's some key differences. So firstly, the idea with labeled in, as I understood, is that it's intended to create a new freestanding drug resource, whereas we intend to actually use our annotations to enrich the existing drug resources. And as well as labeled in doesn't really place emphasis on annotating medical context about the usage of the drug, and we actually place a lot of emphasis on that, and we've made specific provisions for that in our annotation protocol. And then later on, the same authors provide an automatic approach to classify disease mentions in free text as indications or non-indications. And they reported results that their accuracy is comparable to that of human annotators, but actually still falls short of human annotator accuracy. So because we place a high importance on accuracy, it's not actually that significant or that useful for our approach. So yeah, what next? So as I mentioned earlier, we plan to do this semantic similarity analysis of the indications, the non-overlapping indications, to see if we can reclassify them within the overlap. And then we can get a clearer picture of really which are the really unique indications to either repository. We also want to extend our annotations to the remainder of the drugs in the antineoplastic and cardiovascular classes, as well as extending to annotate other drugs as well. Another issue that we've noticed when curating this information from the DailyMed labels is that sometimes you have some indication phrase in the text. For example, maybe you have the text hypertension listed in your label, and only after reading the context, the surrounding text around it, you actually realize that there's a more precise indication, like maybe this drug is indicated for hypertension in patients with a specific reading of systolic pressure, for example. And we want to be able to take into account that information using text mining techniques to identify more precise indications. Yeah, that's about it. And thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. And if you want to see me at the poster session, that's my poster number. Thank you.
Any questions for Kody?
So I'm curious about the medical context piece, because that seems to me to cover an awful lot of territory. So in your example, your denosumab example, that drug is given to patients who are on anti-testosterone therapy for their prostate cancer. And so if you're not on anti-testosterone therapy, you shouldn't get that drug. So presumably you'd like to find, medication errors in records or something like that, right? So medical context could be anything.
Yes.
What do you put there? How do you know what to put there?
Well, the simple answer is I don't know yet. So so I guess.
You can see it clearly on your example. Go
Yeah.
put up the denosumab example, the first one.
Okay. Yeah.
No, yeah, there you go. So if you read the approved label, it says,
Right.
For patients receiving androgen deprivation therapy. Okay, so that's important, okay? You shouldn't have that drug unless you're getting an anti-androgen drug.
Yes.
So how do you write that down?
Well, I mean, write it down. Basically, what I would start with is probably looking at ontology terms, right? So to kind of guide the process of identifying the context, and then go from there and use other further text mining approaches to kind of refine that. But at this point, we haven't really looked into that yet, so I can't give any
I think
detail.
the knowledge representation issue is a little deeper than picking ontology terms, just saying.
Yeah, definitely, for sure, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? In this case, thank you very much.
Thank you.